Welcome to Engaging and Empowering School Libraries, a podcast that aims to raise the profile of school libraries by talking about topics that are current across education and teaching. This week, we're talking about the role of the school librarian can play in helping students and teachers engage with ChatGPT and AI. After initially deciding that I needed to know more about it back in December, the AI world has exploded, and it's virtually impossible to keep up to date with everything new that's now available. We felt that another conversation about what the school librarian's role can be and should be aware of going forward was important. As always, I'm joined by my co-host, Sabrina Cox, and tonight's guests are John Royce, a freelance consultant and trainer, Susan Merrick, a teacher librarian who's at an international school in Surrey, and Jeri Hurd, who is a teacher librarian based in Korea. We are very grateful that she's got herself up at 4 a.m. to be with us. Welcome. So there's lots to talk about ChatGPT and AI within education and schools. All over the world have been discussing it. So let us start with the school librarian's role. So let's start with you, John. What do you think the school librarians should be focusing on? And is this an opportunity to be recognised as an expert again, do you think?
Gulp.
Big question.
A very big question.
Start with an easy one, I say.
I think it should be a matter for everyone involved in the school. It's not just the school librarian's role to take a leading role here. Perhaps a leading role in the sense of making teachers aware, making students aware of the possibilities of using AI ethically, appropriately, and a very big role there, teaching the teachers. I think there's been a lot of hysteria about artificial intelligence and ChatGPT in particular in recent weeks. It's exploded because of ChatGPT version 3. But in many ways, it's just a new tool which can be dealt with, be treated in the way we've always treated technology. Challenge at first, but we find ways to use it. We cannot stop it. We cannot ban it.
Yeah.
So that's where I think we're coming from.
Absolutely. What about you, Jeri? Do you think it's an opportunity for school librarians?
Well, it certainly has been for me.
Okay.
I've been going around talking to all the students in English classes about using it and, the pros and cons, what it is really great at, what it's really horrible at. And so it's been a great chance for me to get in the classroom more than I normally would be able to, because I am going to all the English classes, which is, every student. And so it's been great talking to the kids. It's also been great talking to the teachers, because as they're, in the lesson too, just seeing the range of ideas about the tool and how to use it. There are teachers who have completely banned it, even though the school hasn't banned it.
Right.
The teachers are saying, no, if you use it, you'll fail the assessment. And others who are really on board. So it's really starting some good conversations, I think.
So did they?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, go on. I was going to say, the reason that you're invited into every class is because they recognize you as somebody who knows a lot about it. Why did they? Is it something that you do normally in classes?
No.
Okay.
It's just my line manager happens to be the director of information and technology.
Right.
And we were having some students coming in saying, my teacher said my assessment got flagged as AI generated. I swear I did it by myself. And we think they did, most of them, one of the issues with second language learners is that their writing often looks like it's AI generated, of course, because it's not fluent, the sentences are very stiff, repeated vocabulary. And so he decided, because he knows I'm, pretty techie, and he said, I think you need to be going around and talking to people. And plus, I had already sort of made a poster about, ways students could use it and sent that around. So
fantastic. Okay, so let's bring Susan in. Do you think that the skills that you're teaching, so information literacy skills or inquiry skills, need to change much in the AI message? Bringing AI into the classroom. Do you think that it is different?
Well, I think at this point, the AI is really in its infancy and making lots of mistakes. That it's like working with anything that you can't necessarily trust, that you have to fact check. And that's something that I work with students all the time, teaching them how to, find out whether something's reliable or not, and fact check. So I think that goes along just fine with it. I've met with all of the extended essay students. So I would say that we only have maybe 3 or 4 who aren't taking the full diploma course and therefore not doing extended essay. So I've worked with nearly the entire cohort of grade 11s. And I've talked to them about AI, and we've looked at some of the issues, some of the problems that arise from using it. I've shown them some of the things that I've done with it and the problems that have come out of that. So they have an idea that you can't just take what you get from it at face value necessarily, which at the moment I think is a bit discouraging. I know it is, certainly from my point of view. You'd like to think, that's great, that's all done, except that what you now have to do is go and check it.
Check it. Yeah. John, can I bring you in, John?
Yeah, I was going to say ChatGPT is making a lot of mistakes, but that isn't necessarily going for all artificial intelligence.
No.
And we need to be careful there, perhaps. It is being widely used. It's been widely used for years in different fields. It's only the language model that's made it so prevalent, so much awareness of what it is and what it can do, what it can't do, what it can't do.
Yeah, Susan, can I bring you back in?
Yes, I just wanted to say that today I got approved by Google to be able to start using their AI. And I mean, it has quite a few similarities to ChatGPT, though I did like some of the functions that it has on it. You can do a thumbs up or thumbs down on the result that you got. You can actually refresh it and get a whole different answer. And you can also click Google it and you just go straight into the search engine. So if you're getting frustrated, don't get quite what you want. I looked at the same question that I had asked ChatGPT, which was, I wanted it to give me a list of fantasy series for children 11 to 18 that, let's see, there was something else I said. I can't remember the exact details of everything I asked it to do on that. So I wasn't happy with the results I got from ChatGPT. In fact, the second time I asked it to give me from 2015 to 2020, because I knew it didn't go beyond 2021, and it made it all up. Now, yeah, all of it. I went through and checked every one. I thought they can't all be made up. So the Google didn't do that. So all of them were okay. They did exist. However, when I read the little blurbs, I asked them to give blurbs on each of the series, thinking I might be able to use this, in the library. And I wasn't very happy with the blurbs it gave. You know, I sort of read, I knew some of the series and I read up on some of the others, and
Absolutely. Can I bring Jeri in?
Okay, so I somehow got clapping hands instead of raising
Clapping
hands. Susan, I have a question, because a student was showing me ChatGPT has a browser add-in that will search Google, and she was all excited by that, but it was bringing up these horrible websites like Reddit as a source, and essays.com. What kind of sources is Google coming up with when you search?
No, to tell you the truth, I only clicked on it when I was interested in finding some other sources of book blurbs, so that really those websites were just fine. But I will have a look tomorrow, because I was playing around with some of my extended essay students' questions. So I will have a look and see what it throws up for those.
Because Bing has something similar now as well. So I was registered, and it seems to do the same kind of thing. So you have a question box like you do in Google, and it gives you the websites that it would recommend, like a Google search, like a Bing search. And then on the right hand side, there's a chat box now that allows you to have an AI conversation, but it is definitely down to how and what you're asking seems to be the skill set that we need to be thinking about and teaching, I think. John, do you want to, can I bring you back in?
I was just going to suggest that Jeri come in with a word about elicit, which appears to be very useful.
Yeah.
One of the more useful things.
Elicit is the bomb. I really love it. It's another AI tool that is built around doing a literature review. And I've been using it with our extended essay students. It is like Google Scholar on turbo, because it, and it tends to work better with the social sciences, like things in psychology and economics. It has a couple different options. Like it has a toolbar on the left that lets you search by different parameters. For example, as opposed to the usual just, the article and then an abstract, it lets you search by methodology, by results, by the number of people in the study. And so it really lets students get very granular in finding sources. And then once you click on it, because, a big part of, well, the extended essay in specific, but, student research in general is being able to evaluate their sources. And it actually, once you click on a source, a little box pops up and it lists, the source, a short abstract, and then it talks about like these were the possible limitations of the findings, and it lists the where else the source has been cited, what have people said about it, so they see what that academic conversation is around the article, and then you can also start asking it questions about the article, so it can sort of have a little chat with it. It's still, like all AI, it is glitchy.
Do you need to sign? Do you need to sign up for that one, Jeri?
You do, but
Okay.
it's easy. It's just it's just your email. It's not like ChatGPT where you have to give your phone number, which I find very dodgy.
Yeah.
And then it also has a taskbar that can help students generate research questions. The initial ones it does are really horrible. They're very broad, very vague, but then it has a help me be more specific,
Okay.
and it's just a whole list of tasks it can do that, again, some are more useful and accurate than others, but it's like everything, this is only going to get better and better.
Yeah, so actually that leads me on to my next question, which is about the skills that we're going to need in the future to use these tools effectively. So obviously a good prompt is one of the skills, without question.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's something that school librarians need to be focusing on, or do you think that it will just come? I will stay with Jeri. Do you think it will just it will evolve as the tools evolve? Because you're making it sound as if illicit was that is what it was called, is that step ahead again. So you don't have to think of the questions initially, but you would have to start asking questions once you find the source. Is that right? Is that where your skill is going to come?
Yeah, I mean, I do think, I saw an article a couple of weeks ago that said prompt writing is the new literacy.
Yeah.
And I think that's very true. The IB just came out with its update to the academic integrity policy, which I thought was pretty enlightened approach compared to, like the AP in the US was just said, ban it.
Yeah.
But, one thing they said was that where they, not right now, but 5-10 years down the line, where they see assessment going is not so much essay writing itself as being given a draft of an essay and being able to write the prompt to fix whatever is wrong with it, which I was like, okay, there you go. That's it right there. We're not going to, students won't be drafting. They'll be, generating the text to fix the draft.
Yeah.
So
which
is that's a game changer, right?
It is. Yeah. It just makes it so big, doesn't it? And how do you think we're going to get the skills ourselves? Like, there's lots of I'm on LinkedIn, and there's lots of people out there doing, particularly teachers, it seems to me, that are doing the understanding a prompt and how you can generate a prompt to, even just trying out yourself. You can type in the simplest questions and you get the simplest rubbish answer. But actually, if you have to start really thinking about what you're asking it. It's not just, when they talk about children cheating, it just makes me laugh, because actually, unless you know what you're asking for, it's quite difficult to cheat, because of the simplicity of the answer that you're going to get if you don't ask a good question. So, we're heading into the realms of something really quite clever, but where are school librarians going to get the skill set, do you think, that they're going to need in order to be able to support those teachers and students who aren't ready to jump into AI? What do you reckon, John?
It'll be a matter of keeping up to date, reading the experts, the guides, learning ourselves, I think. Learning by experience, passing on our knowledge through the networks, through our blogs, or whatever means we use to make others aware, our LibGuides and so on. It's going to be a lot of feel there, but at the same time using the skills we already have, building on them.
Yeah,
we're not starting from scratch.
Absolutely.
We already have many of the skills we need, even if we don't know it yet.
Yeah, so that the one thing that I love to talk about is creating a good question, but a prompt is so much more than that.
Well, a good question is one which gets an answer which makes sense to you, which makes sense in terms of what you think you need.
Absolutely. So, Jeri, can I bring you back in?
Well, I also think, because I've been playing around with Midjourney lately, which is an image generator AI. And the type of prompt you write for that is a lot different than the prompt you write like in ChatGPT. And they're really difficult, to try to get the kind of image you want. So like you have to, it's learning a whole new language, because it's about photographic language, and you're saying, I want a high res 4K, when it's just and so it's actually a lot of looking, because Midjourney lets you look at the prompt other people use,
right? That's handy.
So just kind of copying and pasting those and then testing different ones.
Yeah.
So what's it called again?
Midjourney.
Midjourney.
Okay.
But that's the thing, isn't it? That's really interesting, is the fact that literacy is going to change. Because in order to get a photograph or a picture that you want to create, you have to know what to ask it for. So we've taken even that step beyond the Google image search, haven't we, where you want dogs and you want cats and you want, you can actually begin to be more creative. And I know there's a real risk of copyright coming up, and that's another completely different area. But in order for students to get to the stage that they're good enough to get something out of it, they have to be educated in how to do that in the first place. It's fascinating, I think. Yeah.
Quite a challenge.
Sorry?
Quite a challenge.
Quite a challenge. Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. I think
Getting our way.
Yeah. So somebody out there needs to start running training. Doing lots of research and training. But that brings me into Susan, because Susan is doing something soon, I think, about AI. Is that right?
I am. I'm going to the Follett workshop in Vienna, and I've offered to give a workshop about not a workshop, just a session about AI on the second day. But actually, it's more of a prompt. I want it to be a prompt to get people talking about it. Yeah. And I'm in the process. I've just started creating a LibGuide where I can pull together all of the information that I found. I can put in the that Appendix 6 from the IB academic integrity policy, all those kinds of things, so that people will have them all together, when they need to go through and start doing some research. It's also as much for me as anything else, so that I have a place where I know there will always be, so I can go back and look at them. Yeah. So as I said, I'm going to bring up all of these, but I really want it to be more of a discussion, sort of like it was a conversation in Prague, John. Yeah, that was a great workshop. So
that's quite interesting. I think that we've brought it up a couple of times that IB has come up with guidance on using AI tools. So, things like I've pulled it up here so I could sort of briefly look at it, but things like how to reference in-text citation, they're covering it all. Now, I know that I've seen a couple of teachers talking about policies for schools and AI. It can't be banned. It's the genie's out of the bottle. So do you think, IB have obviously gone down that route of putting in procedures and things in place. Do you think schools will have to go down that route, John?
Very much so, yes. It all comes down to integrity, the integrity of the student, the integrity of the teachers, the integrity of a student's research itself, not just the student's integrity, but making sure that the research fits, it's not invented.
Yeah. So do you think, though, that that's probably an opportunity? Because if a student is now using AI in the classroom, they've typed a good prompt in, they've got a response, they're then sat there, they need to do something else, and actually if the task is more, can you work out whether the information that you found is correct or not, it just changes it, turns it all on its head, doesn't it? I think it's an interesting one. Can I come back to Jeri? Do you think that the students that you're working with what's their reaction to AI in the classroom? Are they excited? Are they interested? Are they How are they using it?
Well, yeah, it has been really interesting talking to them about it. And because I'm doing the full range, I've been through grades 6 through 10 now. And then I've talked to my 11th graders about illicit, and they are excited. And it's really because they're really sort of mirroring teachers, because I think teachers are really confused about it
Yeah,
too.
they are. Yeah.
And like, so when I talk to them, like I do the little presentation, and one of the first questions I ask them is, have you used it? And if so, how are you using it? And, some of them are actually using, their teachers are having them use it like for coding and things like that. But then they tell me, oh, and I use it for research. And I kind of wince because, of course, as all the librarians have been talking about, and although we're all doing it, right? You don't know where it's pulling from. It's not like a Google search where you're going directly to the site. You can see who wrote it. You can evaluate whether you think it's reliable or not, versus it just gives you an answer.
Yeah.
Which to the kids seems easier, right?
Yeah, of course it does.
Actually, it's really not. So, and I think they're kind of using it in pretty perfunctory ways right now. And so, which is one reason I made that poster about, 25 different ways you can use it. And so we talk about, when you have a long-term project, like the personal project or the EE, you can tell it, make me a schedule, so that you don't miss deadlines, and it can scaffold things for you, about using it. What I tell them is, outsource the production, not the thinking.
That's a great.
That if they're using it, like if what they're asking it to do is what the task is supposed to do, then that's the problem, But if it's the kind of thinking they're supposed to be doing, I had some. Oh, Matt. I forget his last name. Matt Miller. Anyway, the guy who runs Ditch That textbook came up with a really good scaffold, and I run all the kids through this, and all the teachers at my school are talking about it, because it goes from, student does all the work, no AI, to the other end is AI does everything, copy and paste. And then there's an increasing level of AI doing the work, like student gets ideas from AI, but does their own assessment. Student writes the draft, but gets feedback. To AI writes the draft, and the student tweaks it. And seeing where people fall, and then we ask, okay, which is okay and which isn't. And like, that's the conversation we need to be having.
Absolutely.
Because especially that AI writes the draft and student tweaks it, it's where we're heading. Yeah. But people are so uncomfortable with that.
Yeah. It's funny because I've tried it myself a few times with lots of different things. And I find at the minute, I'm distracted by how clever it is and what it can do for me. And it has stopped me thinking. Right. And I almost
don't stop thinking.
Because it's done it, you think, what do I do now? But actually it's about helping you come up with the ideas. And actually what I'm asking it to do the wrong things. So I asked it to plan me a blog, and I got bogged down with what it was suggesting. And in the end, I was thinking to her, well, actually, I don't need to write about that, because that isn't the bit that I'm interested in, but it was sort of sucking me in. So you can see how students are going to get sucked in, because they're so used to typing the question into Google, taking the first website they find, cut and paste the first thing that they find. This is like massive, big win for them, type a question and it gives you the answer. But actually, we have to now teach them that they need to be reading. Wow, they need to read what they get in order to check to see whether it's right or not. And actually, they have to do the research now. And it's sort of almost brought it back to where we really wanted it to be. in an amazing way, which I think is really exciting. So it's interesting to hear that students are finding it just as scary as as teachers. I think it's fascinating. I think it really is fascinating. So, as with new things that come to the market, we've just sort of been talking about the fact that there are real positives. So it's going to start taking the mundane. So I have heard of teachers talking about it creating lesson plans, creating schemes of work, coming up with ideas that they hadn't thought of, which is all great. And I think for librarians, it will do similar things. So I've heard, librarians using it for book suggestions. So students come in and ask, they've read such and such, what else could they read? And you can use things like ChatGPT to come up with a recommended list, presuming that you don't know that student very well, maybe. Are there other things? I can see Susan's got her hand up. Do you want to come in?
I just wanted to say, don't ask it to do book blurbs.
Okay.
It gets them really wrong.
Yet, Susan, it will come yet.
I will. That's it. We have to remember it's in its infancy.
It is an infant, yeah.
And that, how long before it gets to adulthood? Who knows? It could be just a few weeks.
That could be a really cool competition. Do some blurbs from ChatGPT, even if they're rubbish, and just put them out and see if they can guess what they thought ChatGPT was creating.
Right.
An impossible quiz.
Yeah.
So let's change it slightly. So there is lots of positives, I think, and it's really exciting, but we do have to sort of focus on there are problems. And there are risks involved, and we as librarians who, we want things to be done correctly. We are aware of referencing and plagiarism and all of those things. But what do you think the risks are going to be going forward? I'm not necessarily talking about cheating. I think, the cheating is one thing. I think it's something that we can, students are going to cheat or they're not going to cheat. But beyond that, what do you think we should be looking out for that may be a risk within a school setting? John, can I bring you in there?
Not just in a school setting, but in society generally, perhaps. One of the problems, human problems, is that we seek information which confirms our prejudices. We have an idea of what we're looking for. We find a likely answer. Great, but this and sometimes we find conflicting information and ignore it. Can't be as good. It's partly the echo chambers effect.
But those
compounded perhaps with the filter bubble, with Google giving us the answers it thinks we're looking for, or based on our searches, based on the cookies that are set on our computer. We do not know how we are already being manipulated.
Yeah, so we think that those things are there already, aren't they?
Yeah.
So are we going to have to upskill in order to be able to support our students or teachers more? Obviously, if we're talking in an education setting, do you think? I'm going to bring Susan.
Yeah.
Okay, bring Susan in.
Sorry, you've got two hands there.
I have Susan. She needs to unmute.
So me?
Yeah.
I upskill. I think we're always upskilling. Librarians are always upskilling, but you're always finding out about the latest thing that you need to know about, or finding out about something that you should have known about 5 years ago and you've only just found out about. So yes, we'll have to upskill. We'll also, I think in a way, we all as educators need to lead the way on this, because we need to be using it all the time and finding out what it can do and what it can't do. And you know, as we said, how to ask that prompt that's going to get us where we want to go. How do we teach people to start at a very simple prompt and get more and more complex until they get exactly what they want?
Absolutely.
We're just going to have to keep working on it.
Absolutely. Jeri, can I bring you in?
Yeah, sort of adding on to what John said, that's, you know, because I've written some blog posts that were, you know, mostly really positive and wow, they look at the great stuff this can do. And the past few, I'm working on a blog post now called Things That Keep Me Up at Night, you know, about AI. And what I'm really starting to worry about as I read, you know, some of the people who know a lot more about this stuff than I do is the whole deep fake thing. And, you know, because all these different tools, you know, Google and Microsoft are not, an OpenAI, they're not the only people making these.
Yeah.
And the kind of restrictions that companies put on these for what the AI can and can't do, like, you know, not doing hate speech or, you know, not hacking other people's computers and things that, you know, this could get very ugly very fast, I think. And I'm really worried, you know, as a librarian about the whole information literacy. I worry that we're heading towards some, you know, when I get really depressed, you know, some Orwellian dystopia that will make the fake news thing of a couple of years ago look like a walk in the park compared to where we might be heading with, you know, creating all, you know, I read an article last week about it now, and I've been warning the students about this. It now only takes like a few seconds of a voice clip for them to be able to generate a whole conversation in somebody else's voice. And so what has happened in, well, this was about in the States, they're actually, you know, faking voices, calling, you know, mostly elderly parents in the voice of their child saying, I've been arrested, I need, you know, $10,000 in bail, please help me. And it sounds like their child. So they don't even question it. So
well,
that's
that's
overly gloomy. Yeah, I think there are some big concerns.
Yeah, because when I was thinking about this question and thinking about deepfake, I was thinking about the picture of the Pope in his puffer jacket. You know, and it's so believable. I know, you know, and it's everybody's, it's gone round and everybody thinks it's funny and yeah, you know, it's funny. But some people are believing it. And in the last week, I have been shown 2 or 3 videos where people honestly they're laughing at the stupidity of somebody who has said something that they couldn't possibly have said, but they've taken it as fact. And it's because it's so easy to generate somebody say, you know, a voice and a face and putting it together and it looking real. So this is it is a real area of concern. It is something that is out there. And actually, do you know what you were saying, Jeri, about the fact that, you know, a couple of years ago, everything was fake and, you know, fake news was a big deal. This is so much bigger, and it is down to education. But unfortunately, it's the adults that I know that are sharing this rubbish.
It's fun.
So we're already we're already
retweet.
Yes, yeah, it's gone. Do you know? So there's a big mountain to climb. But I think being aware of it is also. I think that phrase, you know, if it's not quite right for this, but if it's too good to be true, it probably is. And actually, you know, that you've caught somebody saying something that they shouldn't. is that real or not? It is a real question that we need to be maybe adding to our information literacy teaching, as something, as a tool that we need to be, in our box of tricks for when we're teaching. It's
constantly alert.
Yeah.
And the more we want to believe it, the more need there is to check.
Absolutely.
To verify.
Absolutely. So to bringing it back to the skills of the librarian, and something positive to end on. We have skills, don't we, that we need to give to our teachers and our students. What do you think the biggest skill we have currently in our toolbox that you would say that school librarians could be using now, even if they're not really very confident at ChatGPT? Say they've never looked at ChatGPT or AI before today. What can you say to a school librarian to say, you have X skill that would help you with this? I'm going to throw that one at Jeri.
I think information literacy, evaluating sources, using those, those same critical thinking skills we've been using all along to, not just accept everything at face value. And so whether it's ChatGPT, double checking, and yes, you can't look at where it came from, but you can do lateral reading, which we've all been teaching, and checking other sources to verify.
Absolutely. What about you, Susan? What would you say? You need to unmute.
Yeah. I wasn't fast enough clicking. Actually, I missed clicking the mute button. I think that we really need to continue teaching students how to research effectively. And this is not necessarily using AI, but just generally using a search engine. Most kids, actually most adults, don't really know how to use their search engine effectively. And I feel that that's one of the biggest things I could impart to my students if they would listen to me. Yeah. Yes, you know what it's like. What does she know?
Yeah.
No, look at her. She's old. Why would she know anything about this?
That's true.
Yeah, except I can research my way around anything and they can't.
Yeah, exactly. But it's about learning that, isn't it? It is about learning that. And what about you, John? What would you be saying to a librarian?
Yeah, just keep thinking, stay alert, verify.
Absolutely. Okay, so I'm just going to, before we stop this evening, I want to take this opportunity to promote my membership to any schools looking for ways to support collaboration between teachers and the librarian, helping to boost independent learning, literacy and wellbeing through your school library. If you're not sure how to make this happen, my membership program offers training and support for school librarians and teachers and creates opportunities to engage across the whole curriculum. You can find more information in the link in the show notes below. So I'm going to finish off this evening with a little bit of a final push. So let's give them, the inspiration that they need. You've got that quiet school librarian who thinks, I can't do this. What are we going to say to them, Jeri? What is it? What's the big thing?
It's new for everybody. So I don't think worrying that you're not great at it or not perfect at it. Nobody is right now. And so, you don't have to jump in whole hog, but, test it, play with it. And, you're still thinking about it more deeply than your students are. So it's all a win.
Perfect. Thank you. Can I bring Susan back in for one last final thought?
Yes, I mean, I think talk to your IT teachers. I have a really good connection with the fellow who teaches computing at our school, and we're constantly talking about this, and he's talking about it with his students, and his students come and talk to me about it. So keep the conversation going with people in the know and people who are interested.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, thanks very much, Susan. And what about you, John?
I'd say don't assume that students are out there to cheat.
Right.
Most of them aren't. They want to use. They want to learn.
They do.
And they'll be proud of their learning. So help them see how to use AI as a tool which will help them in appropriate and ethical ways.
Perfect. Thank you. What a brilliant way to finish. So thanks for joining me today, John, Susan, Jeri, and Sabrina. It's been really interesting to chat with you. I hope we've managed to unpick a little bit more about the world of AI and inspired a few more school librarians to engage with it. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss out on future discussions. Thank you for listening, and good night.
Bye.